Merci, Carl. Votre Excellence, notre commandant en chef, Monsieur le Premier Ministre, Minister Sajan, Minister McCall, Deputy Minister Thomas, and Associate Deputy Minister Claude Rochette, General Vance, virtual attendees, especially our extended forces family. Just before I get going, I need to observe that often people say that command is a lonely business, although I've never found that. But in these unprecedented times, as we've gone through this ceremony today, I have to say that for the first time in my life, I find that a change of command has proven to be an incredibly lonely business. John, thank you for being here today. And thank you for all of you, including Her Excellency, the Prime Minister, ministers for joining in an interactive way, and for the thousands of you that are joining from afar, virtually. Some people wait for this moment virtually an entire career. And if you are a young officer out there now aspiring to that, as you're making your wish and talking to that genie, please make sure you put the emphasis on the right word as you go through that. Virtual is something we ultimately want to put behind us. Mesdames et messieurs, merci d'avoir
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for deciding to be here virtually today. I first want to thank the Master of Ceremony, Lieutenant Colonel Count Gauthier, as well as all the organizers of this important ceremony that made the necessary preparation for this virtual ceremony. Thank you to all, and congratulations. I'd like also to thank Major General Chapelain for the prayers and Professor Dumont for the opening ceremonies.
Let me also begin in the spirit of reconciliation and in celebration of a proud history shared by acknowledging the traditional Algonquin Anishinaabe territory from which we are transmitting today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud that this has become a common practice in the Canadian Armed Forces. We know that the spirit of inclusion and diversity enriches us. Mesdames et messieurs, aujourd'hui, c'est pour moi un privilège extraordinaire.
For me, it is a privilege, an extraordinary privilege to be named as the Chief of Staff of the Canadian Armed Forces.
A too long two-day hiatus from command, having turned over the Navy to Vice Admiral Baines on just Tuesday of this week. It is indeed an extraordinary privilege to be appointed once again a commander of the great Canadians that we simply call sailors, soldiers, aviators, and special forces operators, and to be a key leader amongst our wider defense team teammates.
I am such an honor to take over from General Vance as such a remarkable and influential leader, as the 20th Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, and to be in charge of taking care of my team members and families that are supporting them, and to give them the means to be excellent.
There is no greater privilege or responsibility than to be charged with advocating for, empowering, and leading you, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of putting people first, a few acknowledgements and thank yous. Votre Excellence, merci de présider aujourd'hui.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for presiding, and on behalf of all the members of the Canadian Armed Forces, thank you for your support for your armed forces. Prime Minister, thank you, sir, for choosing me and trusting me to fulfill this important role.
Thank you, sir, for the steady leadership that you've given as Minister of National Defense. I know I speak for the entire force and defense team when I say that we appreciate your commitment to ensuring that our people have the equipment that they need, as well as always very evident commitment to ensuring that our CAF members and their families are well cared for and well supported. Thank you, sir. Thank you, General Vance, for your 4 decades of leadership in service to Canada, and your teammates in the Canadian Armed Forces, including this latest final tour as the longest serving chief, where you made a contribution that will be even far more enduring. You know, John, I wish I had the opportunity to know you as a young RCR platoon officer. By all reports, you were a dynamo, full of energy, enthusiasm, and commitment to delivering while leading change. You know, nothing like the kind of guy I got to see over the last 5 years. Seriously, though, what can be added to the voices that have already attested to what a difference you have made to the Canadian Armed Forces and to Canada? I can and must add a chorus of 100,000 voices, your teammates, who would all bid you our enduring thanks. That's the kind of impact that you've had. On a personal note, John, I want to thank you for growing your relief. I'm hugely appreciative of your confidence and trust in appointing me as your 36th Commander of the Royal Canadian Navy and for having me at your table of most trusted advisors as one of your Joint Chiefs. Your encouragement, support, and mentorship has helped me prepare for today and the days that will come. And while she's not able to join us here today, we saw her in a video link earlier, I join you, John, in thanking your wife, Carrie, for her many tireless contributions and supports for the Canadian Forces family, as well as, of course, for her routine service and sacrifice in support of you. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you to your children, Nora, Mara, Julia, Max, and Olivier, for sharing you with us. Thank you all. You have the eternal gratitude of the Forces family. Turning to my family, also not here today, ladies and gentlemen, I simply wouldn't be here without my wife of more than 30 years. I absolutely must note her tremendous support and never-ending sacrifices to enable me, and what she calls working on her art for very obvious reasons. It takes a special person to be a Navy wife, and she is surely both. She's the woman who has made me the person that I am, and I thank you, sweetheart. I love you. Forgive me, too, for a loving shout-out and thank you to our family as they look in, including my retired Army father-in-law and my 5 siblings, 2 retired Army brothers and a retired Air Force sister. An impressive group that has been incredibly supportive and inspirational to me, despite the fact that I hold black sheep status as a sailor and an officer in my family. En parlant de famille, je dois saluer la famille Larger de la Marine, ainsi que mes
salute to the family of the Navy and all my comrades that I've learned so much from and are in large part responsible of my ascension to this new position.
Ladies and gentlemen, it obviously takes more than a village to deliver a new Chief of Defense Staff, so please indulge me for a few more thank yous. To begin with, a shout out to Deputy Minister Thomas for the energy, leadership, and professionalism she brings to the department. Jody, I'm so excited to be your executive shipmate and to share a watch with you. En parlant de partager la carte, je suis ravi de rejoindre
Speaking about
mon
this
vieil
sharing,
ami
I'm
et camarade de bord,
happy
le
of
premier
my
ministre de première
comrade
classe
aboard,
PAC, Gilles Grégoire.
Gilles Grégoire,
Après avoir servi
after
pour la dernière
serving
fois avec
for the
lui en
last
tant
time
que
with
membre
him
de l'équipe de
as member
commandement des forces maritimes
of
du
the
Pacifique.
Canadian
We're getting the band back
Pacific
together,
Navy
my friend.
Forces.
Je tiens également à
I want also to
les
salute
membres de mon
the members
équipe de
of
chef
my team,
d'état-major interarmée, que
the
je
Inter-Army
suis
Chief of Staff,
sont des grands
that I
leaders
am,
et
that are
sur
all great
lesquels
leaders
je vais
and on
pouvoir
which I
compter
will
pour continuer
rely
à
on and to
fournir
continue
le leadership,
to support, to offer the energy, the leadership, and the intelligence that the forces need in order to
building and
succeed.
maintaining and operating that national institution that is the CAF requires also individual and collective leadership, commitment, and contributions from across the country and beyond. So I'd be remiss if I didn't salute and thank the significant cadre of elected officials, public servants, industry members, and academics, as well as our allies and partners from across the globe who would normally have joined us today, but I'm sure are instead watching online. And finally, and most importantly, Bravo Zulu, and thank you all to my shipmates, the absolutely amazing Canadians who are my teammates across the Canadian Forces and the defense team. Thank you for your enormous efforts under General Vance's leadership to deliver the go-to, no-fail force that Canadians have come to expect, upon which they depend. Qu'il s'agisse d'assurer la protection des citoyens au pays,
Whether it's by maintaining the safety of citizens across the country or facing the forces of nature to protect Canadians against forest fires or floodings and snowstorms. By supporting the measures in the fight against COVID-19 and the long-term care centers and the community, the remote communities, but also to work with our public service partners in order to complete the missions and the administration of vaccines.
Securing our continent as a steadfast ally on NORAD missions or in the protection of our sovereignty and the defense of North America from coast to coast to coast. Ou qu'il s'agisse d'un engagement
whether it's the commitment of abroad while leading a maritime leader, just like Commodore José Gertz did in 2019, to exercise our functions in the history of NATO or will do quarterback piece of next week. The 2 Canadian frigates that are working as the admiral ships, while making part of a multinational tactic group of the NATO and by the means where Major General Jenny Carignan and before her, Mr. Fortin commanding the mission in Iraq.
And security force training in Ukraine. Through near continuous, persistent presence in the Indo-Asia Pacific, through routine deployments of Her Majesty's Canadian ships and Royal Canadian Air Force Aurora Maritime Patrol aircraft, or in space, or in cyberspace. Canadian Armed Forces members make Canada proud with their unflagging professionalism and get-it-done approach, and they will continue to do so as we deliver on the defense policy, strong, secure, and engaged. The politique de défense du Canada, protection,
the Canadian policy of defense is stretching over a period of 20 years, and we have an excellent start. We have accomplished lots of work, whether by putting in place the transition group, by creating the new cyber approach, or marking the progress of the improvement of our ships and necessary vehicles. The adventure has started, but there is still lots to do in order to put in place the complete policy of defense of Canada, and we'll do this together.
The pursuit of a consistent course or heading is set by the order steady. And so today, as you contemplate what this change of watch might mean, I'm confident that you'll now appreciate that a consistent course is appropriate. We'll remain steady on our 20-year SSE journey, continuing to ensure that the Canadian Armed Forces are an agile, multi-purpose, combat-ready military, operated by highly trained, well-equipped women and men, supported by their government and by fellow Canadians. What is our heading as the watch changes? My order is steady, even as the world around us is not. Le monde est plus exigeant.
The world is more requiring than ever before, and Canada has found out that it needed its Canadian forces at home and abroad. The climatic changes have made a difference in the operations of our Canadian forces.
Activity in our air and maritime approaches has returned to Cold War levels, and increased Arctic accessibility prevents previously unseen sovereignty and capacity challenges. Likewise, internationally, we are seeing routine challenges to the rules-based international order upon which peace, security, and prosperity depend. Here, our operating environment is dynamic, challenging, and constantly growing more complex. Yet time and time again, while working with allies and partners, our forces show Canadian interest and engagement and bring the best of Canada to an increasingly uncertain and unstable world. Coéquipiers, dans le cadre de la politique de défense Canada,
in the policy of defense of Canada, we will continue to strengthen our relationship abroad to stay strong allies of the Canada-USA alliance, and we will work with the government of a country. And based on our strategic environment, we will continue to modernize and to innovate by putting the accent on the orientation of the best network. We will work also with the inter-army teams, and that will make us more skillful. And I'm happy to be the new Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces as we are realizing progress and important investments that are within the Canadian policy of national defense, and particularly in the renewal of the naval forces and the replacement of our fighter jets.
Also called for modernizing NORAD and enhancing our continental defense capabilities. And so, working with our U.S. allies, we will improve how we detect, deter, and if necessary, defeat threats to North America. We will improve our surveillance, defense, and rapid response capabilities, and ensure we have the ability to support operations anywhere in Canada and our approaches. But success will never come down to cold iron or steel alone. Instead, it always comes down to people. Amongst the most significant of the challenges in the future security environment is the human element. That's why Strong, Secure, and Engaged has people at its heart. Ours is a business in which success is tech-enabled, but people delivered. And so our workforce, workplace, and workspaces matter to tactical, operational, and strategic success. In today's security environment, it isn't enough to do great things to get outcomes. Equally as important is how we do them. And when we show our work in this regard, that defines who we are. From listening to and working with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities, to championing inclusion and diversity, to tackling conduct issues head on, I am proud of the initial steps that we've taken to act with integrity and improve our institution. Obviously, Operation Honor, an enduring and crucial effort, is also a signature element that is reshaping the environment and culture of our workforce, our workplace, and our workspace. Yet we all know that our journey of self-improvement has many steps remaining, and we all need urge each and every one of them to be taken. Alarmé par les taux récents et continu contre l'injustice raciale.
Our army will continue against the racial injustice that have surfaced across the whole world, including here in Canada. And we have the opportunity to look at our own failures. What's clear is that racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, and discrimination exist within our ranks, despite the efforts deployed by many people in order to stop it. We must all recognize that one incident is too many and put in light the cases and problems in order to understand and fight them.
I apologize to you, my teammates, our teammates, who have experienced racism, discriminatory behavior, and or hateful conduct. I'm deeply sorry. I want you to know that I will do all that I can to support you, to stop these unacceptable acts from happening, and to put into practice our guiding principle: respect the dignity of all persons. Creating a respectful environment is a responsibility that we all share. And I believe that together we can eliminate racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, and discrimination from our ranks. To these ends, I welcome the upcoming work of the Ministers' Advisory Panel. Bien entendu, il s'agit d'une tâche colossale qui
it's a huge job that asks considerable effort from all of us, and we must all help each other by listening, learning, and acting. We need a change of positioning.
Change that we seek won't just happen on its own. A fulsome embrace of diversity and inclusion across the forces requires all of us to proactively and consistently promote the environment we seek. But let's be clear, it will not be enough to play defense, to respond to episodic and systemic racism, discriminatory behaviors, and hateful conduct. We need to do those things. But in addition to these actions, all of us need to be proactively and consistently promoting the workplace we seek. Teammates, this is not telling you anything that you don't know already. We know who we are. We are a team of equals who are better than the individual sum and whose diversity is an advantage in any theater. Let's show it to those that look in and to those that are in, always. Ladies and gentlemen, as the watch turns over, we are fortunate to be following a steady course set by Strong, Secure, Engaged and the culture change initiatives that we've already launched. This will enable us to remain today and tomorrow the go-to, no-fail force that Canada expects and upon which Canadians have been depending now more than ever. Encore une fois, je vous remercie, Monsieur
Once again, I thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for the trust that you are showing me, and I want to thank my teammates of the defense team for the trust that you're showing to me as well.
In the world's darkest corners and produce the results that Canadians expect of us and that the world expects of Canada. Merci à tous de votre participation virtuelle
Thank you all for
aujourd'hui.
your participation in this virtual ceremony.
Votre Excellence, Madame, j'assume le
Your Excellency,
commandement.
I assume the command.
Merci.